Welcome to the Dr. Stevens and Swearington Show, hosted by executive producers Dr. Michelle Stevens and co-host Coach Yava Swearington, as they focus on important issues within our society, from the highs and lows of surviving everyday life that are real, relevant, and engaging. And now, here are your hosts. Make it sizzle, make it hot. Welcome to the Dr. Stevens and Swearington Show. Today, during our show, we're going to be talking about a very hot topic and a very serious topic. Are you living in your trauma? Hi, I'm Dr. Stevens, your host. Thank you for tuning in to season 1, episode 6 of the Dr. Stevens and Swearington Show. Today, along with me is the co host, Coach Yava Swearington.
Thank you, Dr. Stevens. Hello, viewers. I am Coach Yava Swearington, and today we are excited to talk to you and to bring to you our sixth episode entitled, Are You Living in Your Trauma? Where we will be discussing some heartfelt truth and realities. So, what we would like you to do is grab that cup of latte, have a seat, and get comfortable.
Today, we have some very special guests with us on this show, and I would like to have them introduce themselves and tell you just a little bit about themselves. First, we have Ms. Bianca. She's going to come join us and take a minute and tell the audience about yourself, who you are.
Absolutely. My name is Bianca Anderson. I am a licensed professional counselor, EMDR certified therapist, approved consultant and trainer, founder of Vibrant Vita Counseling and Consulting, and EMDR and Espanol. And I am very happy to be here to share all of the important facts about trauma, what it is like to live in trauma, and the things that you can do in order to live a more freer, vibrant life.
Our next guest is Ms. Kendra. Ms. Kendra, welcome and tell our audience a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself.
All right. Hi, everyone. I am Kendra O'Berry. I'm a licensed clinical social worker for the states of South Carolina and Georgia. I'm the founder of People United Counseling and Consulting, where I provide 100% telehealth services to my clients and for a range of issues. So, whatever you need, I'm your girl.
Thank you so much for being on this show and accepting our invitation. You know, our show today is about a very serious topic. As you know, in the world, there's so much going on, there's so much happening, from suicide, abuse, rape, murder, and so much more. And that's just to name a few. And it's happening, and people are genuinely traumatized. And some traumas start in the womb, from mothers who are on drugs or in abusive relationships. So today on our show, we're going to be talking about this very serious topic. Are you living in your trauma? I would like to, Coach Yava, this is a
I
serious
believe,
topic we're talking about today.
yes, I believe a lot of people are walking around living in their trauma and don't even realize it. That's one of the things I want to say about that. I also want to give a little stats that the trauma is prevalent and it's occurring very universal. According to the Cygran Institute, around 70% of adults in the United States experience traumatic experiences, and about 20% of those people also experience post-traumatic stress disorder, which is also known as PTSD.
You know, some people are living in traumatic situations and has been living in a traumatic lifestyle to it's become normal to them. And some people have experiences in trauma as in their early age, and they do and think and believe that their adaptive behavior or character is the result of their trauma. Ms. Bianca, tell us your experience and your thought on, are you living in your trauma?
Sure. So I think that before we start this topic, it is important to define what is trauma because it is very often misunderstood. When people think of trauma, they often think of major, what we call big T traumas like war, natural disasters, death, physical, sexual abuse. But trauma is much more broad than that. Trauma is any experience that causes emotional disturbance over time. There are little t traumas in addition to big T traumas. This includes anything that can cause you to have an upsetting experience. Trauma occurs in childhood very often, and it continues in adulthood. And very often, the things that happened in childhood predispose you to having traumatic experiences in adulthood. What is normal is often comfortable, even if it's not healthy. So, very often, you are living in trauma and you don't even realize that some of the experiences that you're dealing with are due to some of the events that you've experienced in your past. So,
Hold that thought right there, because we are going to be talking about different areas of trauma. And on that note, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Hey, it's your girl, Coach Mia, asking you to join the conversation on the SNS Show, hosted by executive producer Dr. Michelle Stevens, along with her co-host, Coach Yava Swearington, sharing an in-depth conversations on relationships, health and wellness, important issues in our society, to the highs and lows of surviving everyday life. Streaming live on YouTube at DRSNS Show. That's DRSANDSSHOW. Monthly, every fourth Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
Welcome back. We're talking about, are you living in your trauma? Bianca, I wanted to ask a question, if I may.
Mhm.
Isn't trauma also about not only the experience that you go through, but also it affects the families who are dealing with a sense of helplessness when they can't help the family member that's went through trauma? So isn't it also about how you deal with it after the trauma?
Yes, absolutely. Typically, when someone goes through a traumatic experience, they want to not deal with it because it was painful, it was harmful somehow in some way, and you try to avoid it, which is one of the PTSD symptoms. And because of that, the brain cannot heal because avoidance prevents natural healing from occurring. And then you have a lot of hyperarousal, a lot of unhealthy behaviors in the present, and that does affect the family. And oftentimes, the family does have a sense of hopelessness, not knowing how to support someone going through trauma, especially if they don't see the impact of it on their own lives.
Hold that thought right there. We're going to bring Miss Kendra in. Miss Kendra, we know that there are different types of trauma that people experience. And I want you to talk on that.
So, like Miss Bianca said earlier, you have your big T traumas and you have your little T traumas, right? So the big T's, you can have sexual, physical abuse, like Miss Bianca said, and the natural disasters, and even the little T traumas could be something as simple as a car accident. Even a simple fender bender can result in some traumatic symptoms coming up afterwards. So it's important for people to understand that you don't have to have this big thing happen to you to have those symptoms be present. And anything that you have deemed as jolting to your lifestyle, to your system, and it's constantly going on over and over in your mind, that could be the signs of a traumatic event. And it's worth reaching out to someone, talking to them about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that leads us into our next topic. My trauma made me this way. And I used to have a gentleman that worked for me. And, we have some people that, you're like, oh, well, I'm this way because this is just the way that I am. But I had a gentleman that used to work for me, and he was gay. And he said that I had asked him what happened to him, and why did he decide? What happened that he came to this conclusion and decision that he's gay. And he said when he was growing up that his cousins used to rape him and make him perform oral sex on them. So he believed that that's how he was supposed to be. So, and I want to talk about that because there are some people who truly, the way they are in their actions and character, don't realize that it was their trauma that actually caused them. Because we build up walls, and we create mottos and belief systems that from our trauma that, you know what, for now this is how I'm going to be. Miss Bianca.
Yes. Well, I believe that when it comes to sexual assault, especially in childhood, you are desensitized to the unhealthy boundaries and to improper behaviors. And that does predispose you to some abusive situations in the future. Although I am a firm believer that gender orientation is and sexual orientation is a preference. That is something that people choose and don't choose. But however, sexual assault in childhood does predispose you to entering relationships in adulthood that you don't see red flags that are abusive, right?
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
often tell my clients what is normal in trauma is often harmful later on in life. So if you didn't have love from your caregivers, if you don't have a secure attachment, then you are going to seek love in the wrong places. Maybe that is through sexual abuse.
Yeah, I have, and Coach Me, you can bring everybody on the camera. Um, I have talked to women who are in same-sex relationships, and and getting in deeper conversation. I know a lot of women that say that because they have been in heterosexual abusive relationships, which cause them now to go into the same-sex relationship because of their trauma that they experienced from the abuse. I have clients that I talk to that just won't enter a relationship because of an abusive relationship that they have been in. So they just refuse to even get into a relationship. And just the trauma affecting people. Miss Kendra, you can comment here.
Yeah. So I do want to be clear that trauma does not affect someone's sexual orientation, right? It does not mean that because I was victimized or traumatized by a certain person in a certain way that now I am going to look for a romantic or sexual partner that's completely opposite from that person, right? If I was sexually assaulted by a woman, it does not make me straight. Right. If I was sexually assaulted by a man, it does not make me gay or make me go into relationships that are homosexual, heterosexual, however you spin that. Right. So I just want to make sure we're clear on that. Second of all, with that, like Miss Bianca said, when you experience trauma, you do have those boundaries violated within you in a number of different ways. And especially if you don't have a support system or you don't know how to get out of those traumatic relationships, those abusive relationships, you begin to think what's happening is normal. And you carry that type of activity or you carry that type of relationship style into all of your relationships, regardless if you're heterosexual, homosexual, bi, whatever your sexual orientation is, you will carry that forth in all of your relationships. And I
Well,
think
let me stop you for 1 minute because I do have a question. Because I have talked to a couple of women, and they said and this was their excuse. And I'm not an expert in the area, but they said to me because they have been in abusive relationship with men, they decided that I guess and trauma could have started way before then. Just being able to create that energy or magnet to draw someone to you, because a lot of times if you grow up in abuse, you've seen it, that's something you, like you said, you think is normal. They were saying that because they've been in those type of relationships, they decided that was no longer for them and decided, well, let me try something else. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think that in that people don't understand trauma and people don't understand sexuality. Sexuality is extremely fluid. It is not this fixed point that we have. If you even think about your personal lives, just for an example, the same type of person you were attracted to or felt sexual or romantic attraction to when you were 12 is probably not the same type of person that you are attracted to now at an older age.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Exactly.
So, Java, you want to jump in there? You have a question, a comment?
No, but I am going to go ahead and take us into a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Dr. Michelle Stevens, a certified master life and wellness coach and minister of the gospel. I help women move from stagnation to certainty, uncover who they are, create goals, and build strategies to success. Schedule a 45-minute consultation with me and let's jumpstart your journey to a new beginning. You may email me at contactus@drsnsshow.com, or you may call to schedule a session with me at 866-377-7469. And let me help you heal mind, body, and soul. Step out of ordinary into extraordinary. I am Coach Yaba Torrington, and I am a professional certified life coach and a relationship consultant. I help individuals and couples with relationship concerns. I will assist you with the tools you need to have the power to let go of a relationship that no longer serves you and or to strengthen your relationship. I am looking forward to impacting, empowering, and restoring the sense of self. Schedule an individual or group session with me at toll-free 1-866-377-7469, extension 800#, or you may email me at contactus@drsnsshow.com. Remember, seek clarity, embrace it. That's a part of taking care of you, and you will begin to notice that the storm has settled.
Welcome back. We're now going to be talking about a very sensitive topic, growing up in a traumatic and stressed environment and how it affects you. Ms. Bianca, can you address that issue? You know, when people grow up in, around abuse, just it don't have to be abuse, just traumatically stressed, like you said. You know, trauma, capital T's, little T's. Trauma comes in many ways. I know that for me, I believe when somebody is constantly getting smart out the mouth at you, constantly talking a certain way to you, for me, that I figure that's abuse. I take that as abuse, and you know, verbal abuse. It can be that goes into emotional abuse because of your mind. You know, give me your thoughts, your expertise in that area.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I want to explain the difference between PTSD and developmental trauma, first and foremost, right? Post traumatic stress disorder involves exposure to an actual or threatened violence, physical injury, or sexual violence. Developmental trauma involves any negative experiences that negatively impact your development. If you've heard of the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study, this was a groundbreaking study in the 90s that demonstrated the impact of childhood experiences beyond actual or threatened violence, physical injury, or sexual violence on the impact of quality of life, health, and at-risk behaviors in adulthood. This study demonstrated that things that go beyond actual or threatened violence, physical injury, sexual violence, impact adulthood, including witnessing domestic violence, having a household member that's mentally ill, having changes in caregivers, household members going to prison, being belittled, made fun of, picked at. This is called emotional abuse. All of these things have been shown to be as impactful, if not more impactful, than big T trauma, especially if they occur in childhood.
You know what? This is really really good. This is really really good because you're educating not just our audience, you're educating me. You know, because when you think about trauma and you don't think about the different levels and the different types of trauma that people are experiencing. And I know that, you know, and some people don't realize that their trauma that they experienced in their childhood, that they're operating in their adulthood out of that traumatic experience. Miss Kendra.
Yes. So an example of that could be, let's take poverty, for example. If you have someone that grows up in an impoverished neighborhood, an impoverished home, there are some things that they're probably going to do when they get older. It
Mm-hmm.
can either go one direction or the other, right? You can have someone that they get money and they want to spend it all because they never had it. And so they have no impulse control when it comes to that. Or you find those people who, if they do get some money, they may not know how to spend it, right? And so their bills are paid and there's food in the house, but they always seem to be living paycheck to paycheck because they don't know how to manage that money. Or then I like to say the third option you could have with somebody who grows up in poverty like that, they hold on to everything. They're a money
Every
hoarder.
penny, don't want to spend a dime, scared to spend it.
Right. And this is kind of just a shout out to my Black community. If you ever go into some of your elders' home and you see it packed with stuff and it's from wall to wall with furniture and all these things that they've collected over the years, sometimes that can be a response to poverty because I don't want to let anything go because I remember not having anything. And that is how those ACEs that Miss Bianca was referring to can affect you in childhood and as you grow into your adulthood and affect just how you maneuver around your world and how you relate to the world around you.
No, it's funny that you say that because I can recall a time someone I knew who, you don't realize that they experienced some type of trauma or it was traumatic to them. It may not have been trauma in the way that we see trauma, but I had a friend who evidently didn't have much growing up, and whenever that person would acquire things, they were afraid to take off the tags off of whatever they bought, whether it was um, bathroom towers or whatever. They were afraid to remove the labeling, thinking that they had to take it back. They was going to need the money to take it back to the store because they always they grew up not having enough, and when they was living and making money, they still had the fear of I might need to take this back. I can't take the label off. And I was like, wow, like really? I mean, like, yeah. And I'm like, well, you do know about 30 days, you can't take it back anyway. I would say stuff like that. And they were like, yeah, but I got 30 days. And I won't know until I get to the 30 day. I was like, whoa. And I didn't know, I took it lightly. I didn't really realize that person had experienced something. And I took like, it was kind of funny to me. I was young and naive about it, really. But that was really a traumatic thing for that person to grow up poor, not having enough. Maybe they wasn't poor, but never having enough,
Right.
and then they had to keep holding
Absolutely.
for something. So it does affect people that way. You really never know what's really going on.
Yeah, and that takes us right into our next topic. Um, Mind your manners. You never know who's the next ticking time bomb. And I say that people, um, you never know what someone is going through. You never know what someone has been through. You never know what's on their mind. And you can be out in the public, and the next thing you know, you're standing in line, you say something, and somebody just go off. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know what they have experienced. And I always say, mind your manners. People are getting into some detrimental situations. They recently there was, and you all may have seen it went viral where the young lady was in the store
I was just about to bring that up.
and the man started. They were arguing. He started hitting her son, shot him.
Hmm.
She had you don't know what someone is going through. Ms. Bianca, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. Trauma triggers exist, and people don't know the impact of trauma on the brain and body. And without recognizing that, it is difficult to know what your triggers are. Trauma is stored in the brain in fragments. A smell can set you off, a sound, a sensation, anything similar to the traumatic experience. When it comes up, your body is going to go straight into fight or flight.
Yeah.
And that sets people off.
And
So
sometimes that even happens with just you say the wrong thing. That could be a trigger for someone, and they just immediately snap. And sometimes they don't even know that's the saddest part. They don't even know they snap. They just went straight into a whole nother, you don't even know they switched just that quick. And the sad thing about it is that when they come to a realization, they really didn't mean to do what they did. But them not understanding that they're in trouble or they're suffering from something themselves, they don't even realize, oh my God, I actually did this. That wasn't me. I didn't do it. That's what you kind of hear.
Ms.
Absolutely.
Kendra?
One thing that I try to make sure that I teach all of my clients is the practice of love and kindness. And what that really is like a lot of times when we go out into the world and we experience somebody just kind of going off on us and we're not really sure where it's coming from, we like to turn it inward, like what's wrong with me? And so I teach my clients to really stop and ask, like, how hurt must that person have been in order to respond to you in that way? And so when we do that, we are practicing actively love and kindness to not only ourselves by not internalizing that response, but also to the people we come in contact with, because it helps us build compassion for other people. And
Well, you said something right there.
you never know
how hurt must that person be. And when you think about, people's reactions, to the simplest thing, because you hit a trigger and you don't know what their triggers are, and like you said, you internalize it, well, what did I do wrong? Or what did I say? And it really wasn't you. It was what's inside someone else.
Right.
I remember I used to do in-house ministry, and I had a young lady there. I knew she was dealing with something, and I used to always tell her, listen, you never know what someone is going through. You don't know. You just don't know what will take them to the edge. And that takes us into this next topic, trauma and the relationship. When dating is very, very, it's very important that you find out who a person is, find out their background, and what's really, really funny, and you can bring our guests back up, you can bring the panel back up, is, when we talk about it now, you need to find out their background, you need to do a background check. That's really serious these days.
Yeah.
That is something that seriously needs to be considered in this day and time in dating someone, because you don't know what they have dealt with, what they're going through upon meeting them. Coach Yava, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I actually do have some thoughts on this, because mental health is a serious thing that people are going through, whether it's depression, trauma, it's mental health. And sometimes you could be in absolute perfect relationship, everything is going good, been married a long time. Because I recently read or heard about a story a young lady shared on YouTube where she had been dating, or she's married to the guy now, but she had been married to this guy. She dated him in a younger self. Then she married him. They were married for at least, I think, 7 or 10 years. I can't be exactly sure, but I know it's a long period of time. I think it was closer to 10. And this young man, you don't never know what people are going through, because sometimes we don't open up in a relationship. We don't talk about things that we go through individually, and then it comes back home and affects our household. But her husband shot her, blew off the side of her face. She's all on YouTube telling her traumatic story. He shot her, but she never ever thought he would ever do something like that. So it's not always just about who we're dating, because sometimes we come out dating the right type of people, and people don't show any signs of anything happening in their life. And sometimes people just don't cope with getting fired from work. People don't cope with anything that can just make somebody, especially a man. He's got a big responsibility, take care of the home, get laid off or get fired, can't already have problems at home, don't know how to go home and tell the wife he's going through something. They get in an argument, and when argument leads to something else, and had nothing to do about how they started out dating in the beginning when they were perfectly in love at one point. So yes, we do need to talk about relationships and dating, and I do believe that you got to do more than just a background check. Because I can remember times when I was dating someone and I called the cop, but that never got reported to the police department. The cop came out to the scene, checked to see what was going on. Is it domestic violence? Do anybody want to report anything? And if you say no, and everything's going to calm down, and I'm just going to leave the premises for a moment or a day and come back, that's never reported. So How you
Miss
checking it out?
Bianca?
How you checking out in the background? Help us with that, because we
Yeah.
want
Miss Bianca?
Absolutely. I love this topic. It's a very important topic. What we know about domestic violence is it is about the need for power and control, right? So, this need for power and control can show itself often in the early stages of a relationship. People do change, people snap, and sometimes things like that situation happen. But there are red flags in the beginning of a relationship that you can pay attention to. Anything that shows signs of power and control. Is there excessive jealousy? Is there getting angry if they cannot contact you immediately? Is there a need to be around you as often as possible? Is there isolation? Is there not respecting your boundaries? Those things can and should be addressed in the early stages of a relationship. And the way someone responds to how you address those and set those boundaries is a sign of how healthy they are. If they don't respect your boundaries, then you may need to consider that before continuing the relationship.
That's really good, Bianca. That's really, really good insight there.
Miss Kendra? Yeah.
Yes, I
Yeah.
actually want to circle back to the point that was made earlier about, you got to do the background check. You got to look into people. I usually say, like, the FBI has nothing on women when we want to know something about somebody. And we can dig up old photos, old receipts. We can put it all together to make the picture that we're looking for to get more information. But I also think that, and this is something that I tell my couples who come to see me as well, that it's important to understand how you all work through difficulties individually, right? You need to know individually how you deal with being laid off from work, or how you deal with disappointments, or how you deal with rejection, or how you deal with all of the things that we don't really want to experience or even talk about. It's important to have an idea of that and how your partner deals with that too. So not only can you be able to manage your own needs when those things come up, but also hold your partner accountable to managing their needs when those things happen too.
Absolutely. On that note, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to have the reading of the cherry note. We'll be right back.
This is Coach Yaba Swearington inviting you to join the conversation on a brand new show called The Nurses Station, hosted by Dr. Lisa T. Williams, who shares her knowledge, expertise, along with exclusive interviews with top experts on various health topics. She also provides health and wellness advice to raise an awareness about important health issues within our society and much more. This show airs monthly every fourth Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern, streaming on YouTube at The Nurses Station. Don't forget to like and subscribe to watch all current and previous shows. This show is produced and powered by Dr. Stevens and Swearington Show Multimedia Production.
Welcome back. We're now going to have the reading of the cherry note by Dr. Stevens.
Before I read the cherry note, if you have a situation and you need some answers to your situation, write us a cherry note. You can write us at contact us at drsnsshow.com and label it the cherry note. And during our show, we will read your cherry note and give you a response. We have a cherry note here. And the cherry note reads, I'm a survivor of a gun and domestic violence, and my son and my two sons. I'm Miss A. And she says, in my case, it started as verbal abuse. I know my partner for 20 years, and he was a good person. He started changing in 2015. After his mom died, he bought several guns, including a machete and a shotgun. He became more combative, not only with me, but with others. And through his social media, I couldn't do anything right. One evening in early November, he turned physical. We were having a conversation, and at some point, it escalated. And I asked him to leave. I walked over to the door, opened it, and said we could have the conversation another day. He grabbed me by the hood of my sweatshirt, threw me out the door, and got on top of me and started choking me. I managed to yell for my oldest son, and he got off of me and left. We had broken up, but we were starting to work things out again when one morning we had a disagreement. I was in the bathtub when he came in and shot me. I can only remember the last two gunshots. I looked up at him and and he said, "Look what you made me do. You made me shoot you." He returned with my cell phone and I told him to dial 911. I felt as though I was dying. My legs felt prickly. I didn't realize he had shot me in the back and I was already paralyzed. I can remember being loaded into the paramedic truck, into the ambulance, and saying to the female paramedic, "Please don't let me die. I have 4 children to raise. I spent 3 weeks in the hospital. During that time, around 400 people came to visit me." That's when I realized I had a message I wanted to share. Since then, I've been doing a lot of public speaking, not just about gun violence and domestic violence, but about gun control and mental health. If people are willing to listen, I want to talk about the things that matter. I survived 9 gunshots, but I've never cried out about being paralyzed. I still have pity parties, but it's because I have to rely on others when all I want is to be a mother again. This year, I will be partnering with the center where I will be talking to people about what to do if they're experiencing an abusive relationship. Let's not just point people in the right direction. Let's walk them through it. Coach Yava also has a cherry note from one of our guests who wrote in. Coach Yava.
Okay, so our second person wrote in, and the cherry note starts out as Mrs. E's story. If I only knew my daughter would be living. She states, his behavior changed rapidly. I know I should have recognized it, but when you're inside a situation, it's hard to get perspective. One day, my daughter called me crying, saying my ex had threatened to hit her in the head with a hammer. I called the police and they removed him from the house, and I got a restraining order the next day. After a month, I went to the judge and asked him to rescind the order because I couldn't imagine this man hurting us. Then on January 13th, my whole life changed. I heard the policeman say, "Oh, this is just a domestic violence case." 5 feet from where my child lay dead. When my ex entered the house, my daughter was awake. I heard an argument. I came into the living area to try and calm her down. Her eyes were wide with tears. She could see him approaching with a gun. When I turned around, shots rang. I managed to dial 911. I couldn't talk about it because my face was shot up, but they traced the call home. The police came, then the medical team. I heard a policeman say, "Oh, this is just a domestic violence case." He was just 5 feet from where I was fighting for my life and where my child lay dead. There was nothing just about it. My entire face was reconstructed because the bullets tore it apart. I was in a coma for almost a month. When I woke up, I was hit with the reality of this situation. My brother and sister refused to bury my daughter without me. I had to go to therapy to learn to use my muscles, but a lot of it they couldn't fix. I can't blow my nose. My lips are still numb, and when I'm eating and drinking, I don't know if something is too hot until I get a blister. It's been a struggle. We must get people to understand that they're not in it by themselves. I talked to a woman who dated my ex, and they mentioned he was violent with them. Had I known he'd been abusive with other women, I wouldn't have made him a part of my life. The first time somebody asked me to talk about what happened, it was hard. It's hard every time. But if it changes one life, it matters to me. Domestic violence is such a personal issue, and it's a secret. We must get people to understand that they're not in it by themselves. I met a young woman and men who heard my story and said it changed them. It gives them the courage to reach out and ask for help. She signed, I should have listened.
On that note, we'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Dr. Michelle Stevens, a certified master life and wellness coach and minister of the gospel. I help women move from stagnation to certainty, uncover who they are, create goals, and build strategies to success. Schedule a 45-minute consultation with me, and let's jumpstart your journey to a new beginning. You may email me at contactus@drsnsshow.com, or you may call to schedule a session with me at 866-377-7469. And let me help you heal mind, body, and soul. Step out of ordinary into extraordinary.
I am Coach Yaba Swearington, and I am a professional certified life coach and a relationship consultant. I help individuals and couples with relationship concerns. I will assist you with the tools you need to have the power to let go of a relationship that no longer serves you, and or to strengthen your relationship. I am looking forward to impacting, empowering, and restoring the sense of self. Schedule an individual or group session with me at toll-free 1-866-377-7469, extension 800#, or you may email me at contactus@drsnsshow.com. Remember, seek clarity, embrace it. That's a part of taking care of you, and you will begin to notice that the storm has settled.
What I want to introduce right now is if you have a product or a business and you would like to advertise on our show, or you would like to support us, please email us at contactus@drsnsshow.com, or you may call 1-866-377-7469. And if you're interested in hosting your own show, please visit us at our website and click on the Media Production tab and schedule a session with the perfect production team. Let's bring you the vision. Let's bring your vision to life. Dr. Stevens?
Welcome back. Thank you. This has been such a very informative show. Our guests are so awesome. And I want to talk about on our next topic is breaking the stigma. You know, a lot of times, you know, especially in the Black community, we won't go get counseling. People won't talk about their trauma, and when we really need to. So I like to bring our guest up, Ms. Bianca, to talk about, you know, breaking that stigma, getting counseling, talking about the situation that we're going through.
Absolutely. Not just the Black community, but the Hispanic community as well. We are a very religious-based community where we say, give it to God, pray about it, and that's how you resolve all of your issues, right? Also, like I was saying earlier today, you try to survive your trauma by avoiding it and not thinking about it. It's painful to think and talk about it, right? A lot of people don't know how therapy works. They don't understand that it is a scientific-based process based on decades and years of research about child development. And it is a very scientific approach from the initial intake, where you gather information about what the presenting complaints are, and then you start creating a treatment plan. That treatment plan is based on whatever your goals are. Therapists have gone to school for years, and in addition to that, have had to take supervision for years and have learned how to handle a variety of different people, right? So there are things that you don't know, and there are things that can help you that unfortunately school does not teach us, right? There is not advocacy for mental health within the public school system. Oftentimes when I meet with my clients, they say, oh my gosh, I never knew this. I said, I know. And that's why everybody needs therapy. Even me as a therapist have sought therapeutic services because you have a subjective relationship with yourself. And it is important to have an objective perspective that can sit you down and say, these are the patterns that I'm noticing and what you have going on. And I think if you address some of these deep rooted issues, you may start seeing some changes in some of these patterns that are causing you some pain in your life.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because I have to. I think about my own self. I think about some of the habits that I had developed, or some of the things that I would go through. Like every year at a certain time, certain things would happen, certain things I would do, and I could not figure out, why.
Mm.
And I would never get counseling until recently. I had an experience, and I was offered the opportunity to get counseling, and I took it. And for me, it was so enlightening. Whereas the counselor were pointing out, well, you know what, you're doing too much. I know you're trying to get back. I know but you're putting too much on your plate. You're overloading. And and I'm thinking, I got to hurry up and do this. I got to hurry up and get these things done. Not realizing the stress and the strain that I placed upon myself. So getting counseling and talking about your situation, talking about what you're going through is so, so very important. Coach Java, you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm going to take this right on into our next topic. And we're going to ask Kendra to speak on this topic that we're going to talk about. And the topic is, my trauma led me to my destiny. What do you say about that, Kendra?
I say that sometimes that can be very convoluted, right? Because it denotes that in order to be the best version of myself, I have to go through something horrible. And that can make some people feel like they have to be punished before they can get the reward of just being themselves. But also there are instances where after a traumatic event, if we do the work to process through that, to learn more about ourselves, we find out what our destiny is. And we're able to fully meet the requirements of being our full self, our better self. So it's a double-edged sword with that. My trauma led me to my destiny. It definitely can be eye-opening, but only if you do the work.
Right. And Bianca, would you like to share your insight on that as well?
Yes, absolutely. I think it depends on what stage your healing you are in, right? Because you have to let your trauma inform you. Trauma impacts the way you view the world, the way you view yourself. Sometimes you're not aware of the triggers that are stored inside your body. The body keeps the score when it comes to trauma. So before you do the work, like Ms. Kendra was saying, you don't know how trauma may have caused you to view things from an irrational or a hypersensitive lens. But after you have healed, you can look at that trauma and say, I am stronger because of what I've gone through. I am wiser because of what I've gone through. And I am who I am because of what I've gone through. So it really depends on what stage you're in your healing.
No. Dr. Stevens.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Hey, it's your girl, Coach Mia, asking you to join the conversation on the SNS show, hosted by executive producer Dr. Michelle Stevens, along with her co-host, Coach Yava Swearington, sharing an in-depth conversations on relationships, health and wellness, important issues in our society, to the highs and lows of surviving everyday life. Streaming live on YouTube at DRSNS Show. That's DRSANDSSHOW. Monthly, every fourth Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
Welcome back. That leads us into our next topic. Healing the hurt and living trauma-free. And I want to bring the panel back up because we want to talk about what advice would you give in order to heal the hurt? What process needs to take place?
I'll jump in there. I think the biggest step is recognizing that you need the help, recognizing that what you have been through, what you're experiencing, you can't go the rest of the journey alone, and having the confidence and the bravery within yourself to reach out for that help with a professional. Also want to speak to just the stigma that's there about asking for help, like we mentioned before. And especially within a very religious based community, a minority community, we try to take on all of our issues ourselves. But for my people out there who are listening and who are well versed in their Bible, the Bible says faith without work is dead. So you can have the faith, you can pray about it, you can ask God to deliver you from a myriad of things. But if you're not actively doing the work to pull yourself out of those situations and out of those moments of that downswing from whatever your trauma has caused in you, then you're going to keep repeating the same patterns. Finding a therapist that you connect with that feels like a really good fit is also very important, because you're going to be telling this person all your stuff, right? And it's good to feel connected to them to help that process go as smooth as possible.
Yes, and another thing you can do is you can find positive coping strategies you can use to assist you in your healing process or learning to cope through when you've gone through a traumatic experience. And not only that, a supportive family members, group, friends, anyone that you use as your support system that has a positive influence in your life. That is another way that you can also heal through this process, as well as reading books and audio, listen to things that's going to get your mind to engage in positive thinking, to help you change your positive self-talk inward to yourself. And my favorite is always asking for prayer along the way, talking to God. Those are some of the things that I find that is a positive thing to help in the healing process when you've gone through a traumatic experience.
Ms. Bianca?
Bianca?
Yeah, I just want to talk a little bit about the difference between trauma treatment and standard psychotherapy. There has been significant enhancement in the world of trauma treatment over the past 30 years ago. Before we had CAT scans, PET scans, and MRIs, we did not understand the impact of trauma on the brain and the body. Now we know so much about how trauma is stored in the emotional brain, not just the thinking brain. So you have to use what are called bottom-up approaches to healing trauma, in addition to talk therapy, to fully heal the whole person. One of the treatments that I specialize and train other therapists in is called EMDR. This uses bilateral stimulation to activate all of the brain areas in order to move the information to the healing part of the brain. The brain has the ability to heal itself according to the AIP model. It just needs some medicine. The body and the brain are connected, so you can't really treat trauma without addressing the body's manifestation of that trauma. So there are a lot more advanced and more effective treatments that have been emerging in the past 20 years or so that may also be helpful in reducing that stigma. So trauma treatment is something that is a specialty area, and I believe everything is trauma, as we've been talking throughout this show, right? There's not just big T,
Yes.
there's little T.
Yes.
So that's why I love my work in helping other therapists know how to do effective trauma-informed treatments, so that we can produce profound, significant change in people's lives.
And
I
with
need
that,
to come to your office. I need to come to your office and get some hookup. You know what I mean?
and on that note, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to use some words of encouragement. We'll be right back.
This is Coach Yaba Swearington inviting you to join the conversation on a brand new show called The Nurses Station, hosted by Dr. Lisa T. Williams, who shares her knowledge, expertise, along with exclusive interviews with top experts on various health topics. She also provides health and wellness advice to raise an awareness about important health issues within our society, and much more. This show airs monthly every fourth Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern, streaming on YouTube at The Nurses Station. Don't forget to like and subscribe to watch all current and previous shows. This show is produced and powered by Dr. Stevens and Swearington Show Multimedia Production.
Welcome back. If you have a product or a business and you would like to advertise on our show, please contact us at drsnsshow.com. And if you would like to sponsor us, you can contact us or you can call us at 866-377-7469. And we would definitely welcome your opportunity to sponsor us or to advertise on our show. I would like to thank our guests for being on our show. It has been such a pleasure. And I would like to thank you, our audience, for tuning in to this show. If you're looking for counseling or you want to be coached, I am a certified master life coach and wellness coach. You can contact me at contact us at drsnsshow.com, or you can contact Coach Yava Swearington. I want to say, if you're living in your trauma, learn to love on yourself. Definitely seek counseling. Trauma is real. Don't suffer alone. And remember, you are stronger than you know. Coach Yava.
Yes, I am Coach Yava, a certified life coach and relationship expert. And I do thank you for watching and tuning into our show today, but also for words of encouragement. I want to tell everyone to first just start accepting your feelings and acknowledging what you're feeling and talk about those things. And that also will help you lead to a healing process. Thank you for tuning in to the Dr. Stevens and Swearington Show.
And we want to acknowledge our guests once again. Thank you so much, Ms. Bianca and Ms. Kendra, for being on our show. It has been a pleasure with you joining us today. And we want to say, make it sizzle
and make it hot.
Thank you all for watching the SNS Show with Dr. Stevens and Coach Swearington. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to watch all our current and previous shows.